Hello everyone, this is part 2 of Chapter 6, Cognitive Perspectives, the Processing of Information. Principles of Instruction. Information processing falls under the domain of cognitive psychology. Instruction can be planned to facilitate each of the processes identified by the information processing theory. Basic assumptions. Human memory is an active system that selects, organizes, and encodes for storage the new information or skills to be learned. Classroom applications should follow this assumption. The components of instruction. Structuring the framework for learning, facilitating learner attention, facilitating the encoding of information, and teaching strategies for constructing meaning. The components of instruction. Learning framework. Learning framework consists of learner knowledge and organization of information to be learned. The role of instruction. A, to contribute to the ways the learner knowledge interacts with new learning, and to structure the information to be learned in meaningful ways. Knowledge of text structure. This is important to assist readers to differentiate important from unimportant information. Instruction on recognition and understanding of signal words. Domain knowledge. Readers use knowledge base as a filter to interpret and construct meaning from text passages. Incomplete, naive, or misleading learner knowledge will lead to incomplete or faulty interpretations. Organizing the information to be learned. Reorganizing text materials is a strategy that enhances learning and interpretation. Using graphic organizers to show relationships between concepts is also another great strategy. Learner attention. Student attention should be focused on important tasks and learner perceptions should be informally assessed. Activation of students' relevant knowledge immediately prior to the lesson is one approach. Advanced organizers are umbrella statements that provide a conceptual link between the learner's existing knowledge and the new learning. There are two types, expository and comparative. Expository is used with unfamiliar material, and comparative advanced organizers are used to facilitate the integration of new ideas in familiar material with similar previously learned concepts. Teaching selective attention strategies. Teachers can use questioning to direct students' attention to important material and then observe their use of these questions on their own. Encoding of specific items. Mnemonics. Mnemonics are sentences and acronyms that assist in both learning the information and serve as a retrieval cue for later recall. An example I use in my forensics class is, dumb kids playing chess on the freeway get squashed. So this is actually the different levels of taxonomy: domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Another method is the keyword method, technique that uses learner-generated visual and verbal cues. Step 1. Select an English word that sounds like some part of the foreign language, known as the acoustical link. And step 2 is to form a mental image of the keyword interacting with the English equivalent of the foreign word, referred to as an imaginary link. Imagery-based strategies can assist students with mental and learning disabilities. Strategy instruction. Teaching strategy is important for two reasons. One, because students tend to overestimate comprehension of the text, and many students fail to use effective strategies. Some strategies that may be taught are summarizing. Summarizing is capturing the important information while reducing material. The rules for summarizing are as follows. A. Delete unnecessary material. B. Eliminate redundancy. C. Substitute a superordinate term for groups of terms or lists of events. Invent a topic sentence if none exists in the text. Strategy instruction continued. Self-questioning. Student-generated questions stimulate inferences and explanations about the material and their understanding. There are 4 types listed in the book. Elaborative interrogation, which is asking why questions about factual statements in the text passages. Lesson-based, experience-based questions. Lesson-based, what does blank mean? Why is blank important? Experience-based questions, how do you use blank to blank? And what would happen if blank? Identification of story themes. 4 organizing questions are taught to assist students in identifying important plot components. Who, where, why, and when questions. These are questions used to look for clue words to help deconstruct text. Strategy instruction continued. Recommendations for strategy instruction. Students do not continue using strategies without specific directions to do so. So as teachers, we need to figure out why. 1. Determine the particular activities undertaken by students and the underlying rationales for doing so. 2. Demonstrate the benefits of the strategy use in both school assignments and other activities. If they can see value in using the strategy outside of school, it's more likely that it will be used more and more. Essential steps in teaching a strategy are: A. Describe and model the strategy. B. Provide teacher-guided practice accompanied by praise and corrective feedback. And C. Teach when and where to use a particular strategy. Strategies require time and practice to develop, so only one strategy should be taught at a time. The strategy should be well known before teaching another strategy. Educational applications. Classroom issues, those that are directly related to cognitive processes. Learner characteristics. Well, we all have individual differences, readiness for learning, and motivation. Cognitive processes and instruction. Transfer of learning. Transfer will not occur unless appropriate prior knowledge is activated. Inert knowledge is when relevant prior knowledge is not activated. Main causes may be memorizing rather than learning the significance of the new material, acquiring concepts in a limited context, or being unable to access acquired information with minimal effort. Educational applications continued. Implications for assessment. Assessment can determine students' knowledge of facts and concepts essential to understanding an upcoming lesson. May consist of an informal question and discussion or a formal pretest. Multiple choice, matching, and true and false questions can be used to address facts. Properly designed essay questions can allow students to explain and interpret concepts. Retelling is a technique used by teachers that can help retell stories in which students tell a story or report information in their own words. Developing a classroom strategy. Instruction for information processing should focus on transforming the logical meaning of knowledge into psychological meaning. The definition of logical meaning is the relationship of the symbols, concepts, and rules of the subject area, and psychological meaning is defined as the relationship of the symbols, concepts, and the rules to the student's cognitive structure. Comprehension. Step 1. Develop cues to guide the reception of the new learning. What informal questions will be asked to access prior knowledge? Does the lesson have broad objectives or a purposeful statement that can direct the learner's attention? How will new knowledge or skill build or enhance the learner's prior knowledge? Step 2. Select or develop conceptual supports that facilitate encoding of information. What information should be included in advanced organizers that can link prior knowledge and new learning? What concepts, episodes, and images held by students may illustrate the new terms, definitions, or concepts? Are there adjunct questions or major points in the text that can be used as a basis for secondary rehearsal by the students? What are logical points in the instruction for the students to engage in secondary rehearsal? What are some examples of associative images and verbal cues that students can use? Step 3. Develop cues that aid in the retrieval of learned information. What comparisons with related concepts, terms, or ideas can be made? What inference questions may be used to conclude the lesson? Comprehension strategies. Step 1. Teach attention-focusing skills or strategies. Use questions first to direct students' attention to important material and provide opportunities for students to apply these questions. Step 2. Teach summarization and self-questioning strategies. Demonstrate turning topic sentences into a statement of the main idea. Demonstrate linking the main idea into subtopics. Provide time for application, feedback, and further opportunities for application. Demonstrate the use of generic question stems to generate information from texts. Provide time for application, feedback, and further opportunities for application. It's not a typo. You want to give them at least enough time so that way they can actually do this for applying feedback and further opportunities. Classroom example. Example of a lesson on fingerprints taught in my forensic science class. The initial conference would be, purpose of instruction is explained, teacher and students discuss types of fingerprints and ridge characteristics, and the goal for learning about fingerprints. Part skill development. Teacher and students work on a fingerprint identification handout. Teacher offers guidance and feedback as students are working. And then assessment, students would complete the fingerprint identification handouts on their own. Here's a review to summarize. Basic elements, assumptions. Assumptions are that the human memory is complex and active organizer of information. Learning is a process by which environmental information is transformed into cognitive structures. The learning outcome is defined as some form of cognitive structure. Components of learning, processes of perception, encoding, and storage in long-term memory. Designing instruction for complex skills, we'll talk about that in Chapter 7. Major issues in designing instruction. Relating new learning to existing knowledge and structuring learning to allow processing. Some disadvantages. Information processing theory lacks a coordinated theoretical foundation. The various perspectives are disjointed, and the computer model of cognitive processes may or may not be valid. Contribution to classroom practice. Identification of the importance of designing instruction for the cognitive processes in learning. Here are our sources. Thank you for listening to our lecture. Hopefully you learned something today, and we can actually start discussing the questions in the discussion forum. Thank you.